For as long as I've been in the wine trade, winemakers have consistently said it takes a lot of beer to produce amazing wine. And because I don't want them to start slacking anytime soon, I'm going to be sitting down with some of my favorite winemakers and getting them all to take on DasBootiful Cape Winelands challenge. The challenge itself is all about chugging down a locally produced craft beer while still appreciating the world-class wine. Now let's find out who the quickest winemaker is. Welcome to another episode of DasBootiful Cape Winelands. Today I'm sitting with Mark Leroux from Waterford Wine Estate. Mark, thanks a lot for joining us today, or thanks a lot for having us today. I'm very excited to crack on with today's show and get to taste this amazing Grenache.
No, thanks very much for having me. Yeah.
Okay, so Mark, let's jump straight into things. Waterford, how did the name Waterford Estate come about, and what makes Waterford so unique compared to the other producers around the region?
Yeah, so Waterford is a property that's 25 years old, so in the wine terminology, relatively young, but I think for South Africa we've grown some really good roots, planted in a really special place in Stellenbosch. So I think that's a lot where the name comes from.
Okay.
Being in a valley stuck between two mountains behind us, one being the Helderberg mountain, which is very important and influences our wines a lot, and then also the Stellenbosch mountain. Mountains bring water, so water is where the first part of the name comes from, and then our owner is Jeremy Ord, or the Ord family, okay. And water falls for Water F, and then you've got the Ord family, so that's where that originated. I think the family sort of philosophy of what a family is a lot what runs through Waterford as a culture, and how we do business. It's tied by bonds and relationships, and having fun as well is a huge part of working at Waterford, and going out there trying to do your best. You always want your child to be the best athlete or the best person, and we look at our wines in the same way.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I definitely felt that sense of friendliness when I arrived at the estate today. Like, everybody is super helpful, and it just seems like the level of professionalism over here at the estate is top notch.
Well, we treat every guest as a friend and as a family member, and it's about an experience. So it's welcoming anyone and just showing them what we have. We're proud of what we have, so we show it in that way.
Okay, great. So Mark, out of all the many crazy occupations that exist out there, what is it about winemaking that drew you towards its craft?
Sure. Yeah, it's a big question, and I don't know winemaking in my family, and I think you chat to a lot of winemakers and it's the same. But there's definitely something about winemaking that pulls winemakers together. Even the winemaker that worked with me before at Waterford, he also wanted to become an architect, and a vet. So those are common threads of occupation. So I think it's just the love for nature, for being outside, but also want to look at it at a scientific way.
For sure.
It's not just farming and praying that the rain's going to come. I think there's a little bit more to it. There is experimentation, but there's also some science to it. We like to figure things out, we like to work it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So on that note, in your opinion, what's the most important stage when it comes to the winemaking process?
I'm going to say winemaking because that's what I do. Everything. You can't really pinpoint it on one thing, and it starts right from the beginning. So sure. Vineyards and soil are always going to be number one. If you don't have the product to start off with, you can't end it. So that's crucial. The soils obviously make the difference.
Sure.
What's in the soil is going to be reflected in the vineyards and reflected in the fruit. And winemaking, it's equally important. How you manage what you're getting from the vineyard and turn it into something that's world class.
Sure.
Doesn't stop there. Then you still have to sell the wine and show people what you've made and why you're making it, because some areas produce unique and interesting wines which are sometimes a little bit different to what the customers used to. So you have to also get them excited about your product. So it's the full circle. Everyone is involved.
I like that you say when you mentioned the facet of something that's different to the norm. Yeah. So I mean, when I hear Waterford, I don't necessarily think of Grenache, which is the varietal in focus today. I'm thinking of Shiraz, or I'm thinking of the Gem. But today, Grenache being the varietal in focus, I mean, for those out there who might not know too much about this cultivar, can you just chat us through the general flavor profile of Grenache as a whole?
Yeah, so there's not a lot of Grenache in this country, and it has picked up a lot in popularity, I would say, in the last 5 years. And that's purely because I think this varietal grows in South Africa. It grows well, it doesn't need a lot of water, It can handle the heat. which is South Africa.
Yeah,
so
100%.
we've stolen it from a little bit is sort of Spain is where it originates. And we've brought it here. We've got it grown in the most rocky soils on Waterford. No soil, literally about 70% rock. A lot of Waterford's building was actually built from sandstone rocks,
No way.
which come out of this,
Yes.
this vineyard. So it's an incredible vineyard. I think for us, different to where you normally find Grenache in this country, it's the only Stellenbosch Grenache 100% that I really know of. And we are on the mountain range closest to the ocean, so that's definitely going to have an influence on the wine, but we're also warm. So you get the natural spice, the sort of the wild berry flavor, a little bit of sort of earthy notes, but there's an obvious cooling in the wine as well. It's refreshing. You can sometimes, I like to serve it a little bit cooler than what you would normally, but it's got an amazing texture and mouthfeel. Sure. And for me, the most exciting food pairing with this was actually a venison pie dish, which was crazy because
I'm going to have to go to your home after this is a good one.
Yeah. So go for it.
So let me actually ask you a very difficult question now. So out of I like those eyes. You're like, what on earth is this guy about to ask me now? But I wanted to just ask, out of all the wines that you've exposed your palate to, what to date has remained your favorite wine of all time?
The best wine I've ever had.
Yeah.
So I have been fortunate to be on a couple of trips, and I think Chateau Reyes is probably my number one, which is ironically a Grenache wine. It's the most incredible wine, and I think what I'm driven to it is it just feels like it's such a humble, honest wine that's made by a relatively small producer, and it wasn't about popularity or anything. And the wine's incredible. It was really, really incredible. Not a very well-known wine, I think, outside the wine region. But it's one of the wines that I wish I could taste again in my life.
Nice. Well, I mean, it's bound to happen. I'm pretty certain about that. But that wine that you're speaking about now, was that now? I mean, there's different ways of producing Grenache. You either get something that's produced in a very light fashion, which can be enjoyed on a very hot summer's day, but you also get those Grenaches that tend to be quite heavy and quite bold. Yeah. So Grenache is generally quite a big grape. So if you think about that, the skin is where all the color and the tannin generally sits, and the inside is actually the white part. Yeah. So the ratio between the flavor and the color to your juice is very small, so it's generally quite a light colored wine. For me, it's not very off-putting. That's not an indicator of power and flavor. Okay. And Grenache has got power, even though it looks very almost rosé-like. So some people are doing a little bit of whole bunching. So when they harvest, they use the entire bunch with the stems. So the stems add a little bit more tannin and can build up a little bit of structure in your wine, which is nice to a point. But I mean, the stems also can direct your fruit a little bit away. Sure. So that is something I want to be cautious of, and also having the ocean influence, we tend to ripen a little slower. So even though it's still a relatively light colored wine and sort of looks as if it's light, it does pack a little bit of flavor because it's got that longer ripening period. Okay. So then obviously the vineyards here must be quite high then if you're actually picking up on that ocean influence. I think relatively high for the Helderberg, but considering the rest of our plantings, it's actually below our Cabernet vineyards. Okay. So not quite right at the top, but it does definitely feel the breeze. Okay, so that breeze is funneling obviously through the mountain ranges and whatnot. Yeah. So what if it does sit on the mountain range? So the cellar's right at the bottom, and even us, when it's really hot in the quad doing a tasting, we do still feel that breeze sometimes. Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense to grow Grenache here because, like you said, it needs a specific kind of climate, which is obviously quite hot and arid. And damn, if you were standing outside here today, I mean, I was sweating myself to pieces, and I mean, I just can't wait to get onto something like this right now. So, that being said, your own personal collection of wines, you know, that secret little stash that you might have hidden underneath your bed. What's the most prestigious wine that you're currently holding on to? Sure, I must really think. If you want to share that kind of information, obviously. No, I'm trying to think what I really have. I think I do have a Sassicaia sitting in my cellar, which is a wine that we benchmark actually quite often at Waterford, being sort of the Italian influence on our Cabernets. There are a couple of Bordeaux. I can't think of anything standing really out. Lynchbarge is also there, which is quite a common one that we benchmark at Waterford as well. Mostly Waterford benchmarked. I think that's what I build my collection on. Yeah. Okay, so Mark, I reckon that's enough mumbo jumbo from us. How's about we put some liquid to lips? Yes, no, please, can we open it? Okay, so Mark, now that the wine is finally open, can you maybe just talk us through the production process that went into this specific wine?
Yeah, so the vineyards are still relatively young for Grenache terms. So we planted these vineyards in 2004, made the most fantastic rosé for a good couple of 10 years, 10, 15 years almost before we got going with it. But it's an amazing vineyard, grows quite lush in the beginning, big bunches, that's why it's really good for rosé. But I mean, the magic starts when those berries start getting smaller, and that's when we noticed it in sort of 2014 for the first time. So we started making the still wine and actually bottling it so that we can start tracking it. It grows quite easily actually. It's a beautiful vineyard, it's got a lovely green color. The only little thing to really manage is actually crop control.
Okay.
So we do walk through about 3 or 4 times managing the size of the bunches because we don't want them to get too compact or too big. And on the vineyard side, that's sort of it. In a way, it's just trying to get the cleanest fruit, getting it in, and then following that process into the cellar. As I spoke about earlier, just a little bit of a whole bunch, we're looking at about 4%, which sounds like nothing, but it's just that little
For sure.
edge on the side. And because it's in Stellenbosch and it's got that long aging, it's so pure, it's so clean, we're really looking at no wood. So we've actually introduced porcelain jars.
Yeah, sure.
So the porcelain doesn't add or introduce any flavor, but because porcelain is still porous, it allows a little bit of that oxygen, which allows the Grenache to breathe and develop and grow, because it's not getting that from tannin, which you would in a barrel. So, and that's about it. We age relatively short. It's about 16 months versus most of our reds that we have in the cellar hits about 21, 23 months. And that's about it.
So it's like a very minimal approach to the, well, I use minimal in a broad term, but I mean, that's the kind of approach you take when it comes to the production of this wine.
Yeah, so the little blending that comes in, it's a 1 hectare vineyard.
Okay. Wow, very small.
And we probably we try and pick about 3 batches at least.
Okay.
So out of the 3 batches, we've got a little bit of components to play with. And that's about it, yeah.
You know, this is the first time I'm trying this wine.
We're allowed to taste it.
Yeah, it's the first time I'm trying this wine, and from that first sip, I can't believe the amount of power that wine has got. And also the concentration of fruit, the way it just kind of like jumps at your palate. The flavor spectrum of that wine is freaking incredible.
Yeah, so we are aging about 60% of it in old 500 litre barrels.
Okay, so there's a small oak
little bit of oak, but you're not going to really get tannin out of that. But though that component does feel a little bit more creamier, a little bit richer. And then the porcelain, which is about 30%, just it creates this crunchiness and vibrancy that it keeps in the wine, which I think is really nice. It keeps it youthful, keeps it alive, and just interesting. It just keeps you coming back. It keeps that freshness. Yeah.
The one thing I can say is that this is a sexy wine. I'm not just saying that because...
You're allowed to say it.
But this is seriously incredible. And I mean, the one thing that I enjoy about the wine is that it's got a combination of both black and red fruit, and there's a touch of like herbaceousness. Again, I use it like in a very subtle manner because I know some people don't enjoy that, but that's that freshness that you're speaking about. So it's like a small element of that which really like allows the wine to have quite a pronounced tone on the nose.
Yeah, so I think you're always going to get a sense of herbaceousness. We're picking fruit of a plant that's got stems and leaves, and it's part of nature that you're always going to get some sense of herb in your wine. And I think all our wines at Waterford do have a sense of earthiness, because I think for one, we're not using a lot of oak, which brings in oaky flavors, caramel, sweetness, and we're really looking for purity. So you're going to find the fruit, but you're also going to find some of the plant in there, which is herbaceous side of the fruit. And I think it really brings an incredible sort of vibrancy in the wine. It's nice, it's got structure, and what else are you looking for?
Well, I mean, I was expecting big things from Waterford and big things delivered, so massive congrats on this wine. But, you know, I think it's time that we cut a long story short here, you know. Okay. Mark, for as long as I've been in the wine industry, winemakers have consistently said one thing to me. They say, Gareth, it takes a lot of beer to produce amazing wine, and because I want you to continue producing wine of this crazy quality, Mark, I think it's time that you pay the piper and you take on DasBootiful Cape Winelands challenge.
This season's beer sponsorship comes from the Kennel Brewery. Today's beer is the Malty Yeast Poodle, a wit beer. Yellow, cloudy, Belgium-style beer with a spicy coriander and bitter orange peel flavor mixed with complex banana and bubblegum notes that give wit beer its distinctive character.
Okay, so Mark, you know the rules. It's all about chugging down a locally produced craft beer in the quickest possible time. Over here you can see this is the current leaderboard. Hagen was actually sitting at the top for multiple weeks. But then DeVet just came along in the last episode and just like smashed him down to second place. You can have a look over here. I mean, Shane Poireno is just still struggling away over there at the bottom. I mean, he was made to make wine, not really down beer. But where exactly do you think, or where do you feel you're going to end up this afternoon?
Before we started, I thought I was quite confident, but I'm actually quite nervous right now.
What's made you so nervous?
So I don't know. I just don't want to be at the bottom.
Well, just think about the heat outside. Okay. I mean, that's enough motivation for you to just send it.
I'll give it hits because we have a keg every year at Waterford.
Okay.
And it definitely is something that you do need to make good wine.
So you are a seasoned beer drinker, then we're definitely expecting big things. Okay, so Mark, you can grab the beer and hold that in your hand. I'm going to count it down from 3. And the minute that beer touches your lips, it's go time. Are you ready to pay the piper and take on DasBootiful Cape Winelands challenge?
Let's go. Let's see.
3, 2, 1. Oh, it's looking strong. Definitely a beer drink over here, people. I can sense it. It's looking strong, Mark. Carry on going. Oh yes. Here we go. Hey, Mark, well done. That was a champion showing. Okay, so what do you? Now that is quality.
For time.
I should actually deduct 2 seconds from that classic burp over there. So where do you think you're laying over here? I'm not going to tell you your time just yet, but I want you to take a guesstimate.
That felt fast.
It was quite quick. Who did you want to actually beat here today?
I think I'm going to be sitting hopefully above Nick. Between Peter and Nick.
Okay, so you reckon that's the one winemaker that you need to beat? Eh?
Yeah, I think so.
You got beef with Nick?
No,
why has everybody got beef with Nick? Not just jokes.
No.
Okay.
I just think time-wise, maybe.
Well, do you know what, Mark? Do you know where you're sitting? You're sitting right in between Peter and Nick. Your time today is 13.72. Sure. Can you believe that? Well done. That's a massive show. So I'm just going to quickly just jot you down over here. Yes, see, that's great.
That's a big beer. I got to the toe part and I was like, I've got a burp, but I still got some to finish.
Okay, so Mark, congratulations on the challenge. You've really done yourself proud. I'll obviously move you right in between there, above Nick, in the next few minutes. But I just wanted to say thank you for today. Thank you very much for taking us through the production process of your amazing Grenache. And I just want to encourage you to continue what you're doing. I think the wine that you're producing at Waterford is absolutely world class. So thanks again for everything.
Thanks so much.
Cheers,
man. Yeah, awesome.
So folks, that was the incredible Grenache being produced at Waterford Wine Estate. If you want to get your hands on that wine, all you have to do is just follow the links below. Keep in mind that my crowdfunding campaign for the Diploma in Wines through WSET is still a go, and if you'd like to make a contribution towards the cause, you can just scan the QR code over here in the corner. That brings us to the conclusion of another delicious episode of DasBootiful Cape Winelands. But before I love and leave you, I'd like to remind you all to be kind and drink good wine.
And don't forget the beer.
And beer. Cheers, man. Thanks a lot. That is awesome. Yeah.